My father saved my dental career when he suggested to me to become a technician. And by loving the dental tech work, I realized that dentistry could do something for me. And that's how I found my passion. And dentistry was generous enough to actually fulfill all my dreams. And 3, 2, 1, and we are back with Coffee Break with Coachman, with my friend Barrett and myself, Christian Coachman, where we just share thoughts and interview people, or we just express our own ideas in this space that hopefully will be always helping people to do better in this beautiful profession that is dentistry. And today, it's a very special episode because my friend Kirk asked me to talk about my own journey. So it's a privilege, it's an honor, and I'm very humbled with the fact that he wants to listen to it, and he's going to make great questions as always. And let's see if we can get some useful take-home messages from this crazy life that I had behind me.
Christian, thanks for being back, brother, and thanks for agreeing to talk about your personal journey.
I'm even honored with the fact that you're interested in my journey and that you want to ask questions about what happened and the steps and the moments. So for me, it's a privilege actually to speak about my journey, and I feel humbled and I feel happy that you believe that people would be interested on it.
Yeah, I'm fascinated with story. I think the brand of DSD that you've created, and if you've never seen Christian speak, you have to. And I was commenting before we hit the go button, his content is tremendous. I mean, it's hours and hours of content. I struggle to put 2 hours of slides together, yet he can do it from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m., 2 days in a row, and still get everybody to go to an amazing party. So we're going to cover that today. How in the world do you create this content? He also has his family involved in the business, and DSD has grown worldwide. So, but let's go back to the very, very beginning. So where do we even start, Christian? Take us back to the beginning.
Oh, man. You start with somebody that had no clue I would become a dentist, even though my whole family is in dentistry. I never thought about it, and I was not into it. And my dream was to be an architect or an artist. My father saved my dental career when he suggested to me to become a technician. And by loving the dental tech work, I realized that dentistry could do something for me. And that's how I found my passion. And dentistry was generous enough to actually fulfill all my dreams. I wanted to be a designer. I became a smile designer. I wanted to be an architect. I became a smile architect. I wanted to own a business. I became the owner of digital smile design company. I fell in love with marketing, and most of my work, or part of my work, is to work with marketing teams and consult for marketing teams in dentistry. I love communication, and I wanted to be a communicator. Dentistry allowed me to become a communicator in dentistry. So it's funny because the most common thing to do as a dentist, clinical work, I never did it. And I was able to do everything else in dentistry and fulfill all my dreams. So I'm very blessed. I can say I'm very grateful to dentistry, because dentistry is such a multifactorial profession today that you can be whatever you want in dentistry. And I was able to find all these niches and be so passionate about dentistry, even though the 2 first years of dental school, I was 100% sure that dentistry was not for me. But I didn't give up, thanks to my mom, in this case, not my dad. My mom said, you want to give up, you want to stop, you're going to do this for me. You're going to finish dentistry, you get your diploma, and then you do whatever you want. Wow. And I actually listened to her, and I'm very grateful, because even though I never did regular clinical work, the fact that I am a dentist and I went through the whole school and I am a doctor, let's say, opened so many doors for me. So it's funny how, when you follow your intuition and you listen to your parents, it's a
Yeah.
smart thing to do.
Okay. So I want to go back to that. I want to talk about your mom. Your mom still works in your business, correct?
Yes, so that's another dream that dentistry allowed me to fulfill, working with family. My father always had a family practice. We are in dentistry since ever. So he practiced with my grandfather and his brother. Then came my father and his brother. So at one point, my grandfather, my great uncle, my father and my uncle were all working together. So I always had this dream of being able to create something that could bring family together and allow us to face all the challenges of working with family. And DSD allowed me that. I started DSD with my wife 12 years ago. I had my mom as my personal assistant since 15 years, and she's still doing that job for me. So she's DSD employee number one. Then my younger brother joined from the business side several years ago. Then my older brother joined and became the director of the DSD Planning Center. Then my sister-in-law, that is a dentist as well, joined and it's still working in the planning center. Then my other sister-in-law, that is actually an architect, joined the company a few years ago and is taking care of customer support. My actual sister worked in the marketing department for a while. Then she went back to Brazil. And now my son, that recently graduated from college in US after working in US for a few years, joined the company and is in taking care of sales and is doing a great job. So we have, I don't know, maybe 8, 9 family members working together. And of course, my dad is still working as a clinician and is a customer of ours in
Mhm.
DST. So he's somehow involved as well with the company. So it is a family business with
Yeah.
all its amazing pros and super challenging cons as well.
Yeah. I want to go back to dental school though. Tell me about that. So you were convinced you didn't want to be a dentist. When did that turn around?
So I'm convinced, and I tell everybody I'm gonna quit. Then my mom makes me promise that I'm gonna finish and do then whatever I want to do. And I actually, on the second year of dental school in Brazil, you have the option of combining dental school with dental technician school. So you can move your dental school to half period instead of full day and do it longer for more years. That actually allows many people that have to work during school to do dental school, right? Because you don't have in Brazil the loans and things. You cannot get money to go to college and university. You need to pay yourself, so you need to work. So I was able to move dental school half period to the evening and do dental technician school in the morning. And starting on the second year, I started to work as a technician for my father. So that was the idea of my father. Say, look, before you quit, there's still hope. You always loved working with your hands. Maybe you can become a good technician and maybe you will like. And worst case scenario, you're going to at least make some money during dental school. And then after you do whatever you want. Right. So that's what I did. Second year of dental school. So on the third year, I was already working with as a beginner and starting to receive a little salary from my dad, and then started to do some ceramics, and then started to have outside clients. And to the point that when I finished dental school after 6 years, actually my dental school was longer because I was spreading. You're able to spread and do minimal amount of disciplines per year, so you can actually spread. I did dental school in 9 years. It took me 9 years for dental school. Of course, that in Brazil, you don't have college. So that means like college plus dental school altogether, 9 years. I went through, I don't know how many different classes and people. There were so many people that entered in school 3 years after me and graduated 2 years before. I was kind of a funny story in University of São Paulo. Oh, Christian, that guy that never leaves. always around. But that saved my career because I was able to finish dental school. In the middle of the school, my girlfriend got pregnant. I had to get married. My father got bankrupt. We lost everything. Everything happened during those years. What made me have to work very hard, and dental technician saved my ass. I was able to make some money and working day and night. You can imagine studying in the morning, working in the afternoon, going to dental school in the evening, baby in during the night. You can imagine it wasn't easy, but you know what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and it really shaped me. Like I remember from 20 years old to 30 years old living this type of life without money, zero money in a country that gives no support when you don't have money. I remember just repeating to myself day and night, uh, I'm going to change this. I'm going to do something of my professional life and I will make money. I need to make money. I will make it happen. I will find a way.
So, what were some of the landmarks for your milestones that helped you make the turn?
So the first thing, I usually divide my life in certain moments. The first moment, I call it survival mode or uncomfort, right? And I think today that is so important. And I saw actually a famous philosopher. No, it's not. He's a famous CEO of a big company. I will not remember. He's hot now on social media. And one of his main messages is that you can only grow when you suffer. There's zero chance you're going to grow if you don't struggle, if you don't suffer. And he's teaching for young college students. He's saying to a young crowd, and say, look, I'm sorry to tell you, if you're not suffering, you're not growing. And if you don't face adversity, if you don't face big issues, like issues that you're like, holy cow, how I'm going to survive tomorrow, right? How I'm going to pay my bills tomorrow, what I'm going to do with this little baby at home. My family cannot support me. There's no way to run. I need to find a solution, right? So this first phase, I call it the survival mode or uncomfortable moment. It took me 10 years I had an amazing life as a teenager. My father was doing very well and we had a very nice life. Doing sports was all I knew. And when it hit 20, just boom, he got uh, literally bankrupt, big time, meaning zero money tomorrow. And I got into school. I had to survive, and little baby and all those things. So this took 10 years. It took 10 years all the way to 29 for me to start changing. And what allowed me was the passion for doing ceramic work. Working as a technician was my light at the end of the tunnel. I was able to, in the middle of this mess, to make a few good decisions in terms of identifying something that I could be good at. Much more important for me, the take-home message of these first initial 10 years is not to find what you love. That's not the way to get through this initial moment. It's to find something that you can be slightly better than average. And if you succeed, you're going to like it anyway. You're going to find a way to like it because you are good, not the opposite. I love being a journalist. Good luck with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's much easier. The shortcut is like, from everything that I can do, what is the thing that I can probably do slightly better or I can learn faster, right? Because of any kind of characteristic or gift that I have, or something, a closer mentor that I have, or an opportunity that I have. What is that little gap of opportunity that shows you? And you need to be able to, in the middle of this mess, to step back a few minutes a week at least and say, what is it? What is it? What is it? Right? Let me find, even if I need to work as a waiter to pay my bills next month, I will keep that going, but I'm going to find that little thing and I'm going to start doing it. And this is going to be my shortcut. So that was dental technician. I started working, as I was 22, 23. When I was around 26, I was already pretty decent because I had the hand skills. It was a pragmatic decision. You know, if I didn't have the hand skills, it would be stupid for me to say, I love dental technician work. I'm going to learn. That is just stupid. You know, find the natural path. And that's for me the big lesson here on this first decade. I found it. I became decent. I started to get some clients, and I started to make some money, pay my bills. Uh, and then I started to meet people, and that is the second biggest lesson for me on this initial period, and that is networking, communicating, being nice, adding value on conversations. Just being that young person, that very successful older people, just 5-minute conversation, noticing you, say, this is a nice young kid. If I come up with an opportunity, I would definitely give an opportunity to this guy, right? And by being just a nice person and working so hard and being so ethical about work, giving my 110%, you just stand out a little bit, and allow the people that have the connections to identify you. That brought me to the phase two. Phase two is learn, grow, create. Learn, grow, create. You have, after 10 years working on whatever you picked, there's no excuse for you not to be passing survival mode, right? And getting into, now that I know that I have the skills, I'm already doing decent. How can I learn the steps to become great, right? So from 30 years old, my whole thing was like, I can be a decent technician forever, or I can try to be great. And I want to grow, and I want to create, right? So from 30, I would say from 30 to 40, that's when I got into the next phase. But thanks to the first phase, I was able to stand out a little bit and get some people looking at me. And one guy, famous Brazilian dentist, came to me and said, Christian, I noticed you. People are starting to talk a little bit about your work here and there. I know your father. He's also, a great dentist, blah, blah, blah. I have an opportunity to you. I have some top American dentists that are begging for a great ceramist. And you know some English. At the time, I thought I knew some English. My English, I couldn't. I thought I could communicate in English, but I couldn't. But people thought I could, right? And I could say hello and interact a little bit. So he said, "You speak English. You are a nice guy. You work hard, and you have talent. So I'm gonna bring you with me to US from nowhere. I'm gonna bring you with me to US. Chicago midwinter, 2004. Remember today, like it was yesterday. And I'm gonna introduce to all these hot guys, the super top clinicians. And all you need to do is introduce yourself and share your work with them. And let's hope that somebody will call you back." So I went with him, slept on the floor of his hotel room, sneaked into his hotel room to sleep at the floor of his hotel room. I remember uh, grabbing money, asking for money for family to pay for the flight to go to US. I didn't have the money to buy a ticket, and going to Chicago midwinter and betting everything I could there. And there I met Larry Rosenthal, David Garber, Ronald Goldstein, John Kanka, Win Okuda, the owner of Da Vinci Lab was a guy from California, super famous at the time, Bill Dorfman, all these guys. And was the first time I actually put a presentation together on PowerPoint. I picked some pictures that I had of cases at the time that was like ridiculous, like just and I built a slide presentation, and I recorded on CDs. At the time, they were CDs, little CDs. They were colored, the little ones. I don't know if you remember. They were
Yep.
little, not the regular CD, the little CDs, CD room, and I recorded 25 of those. with my presentation and my information. And I went to Chicago midwinter with this doctor, and he said, look, you just follow me. And whenever I say hello to somebody, if I blink to you, it's because that person is famous. So you just come, introduce yourself, and give the CD. And I did it for 2 days. And yeah, Chicago midwinter was over. We came back to Brazil, and I thought, look, nothing happened, but did happen. After a week, I started getting calls. And a bunch of them called me back and saying, we like your work, and I want you to come in and work for me. So 1 month later, I booked a second trip. I had to ask for money again, say, now it's very close, maybe something will happen, and go back to US now to work with them. So I went to California, did a few cases at Da Vinci, and then I was supposed to go to Hawaii, ended up not going with Winokuda. Then I was supposed to go to Atlanta with Team Atlanta, and with New York with Larry Rosenthal. And I went to Atlanta, worked for 1 week, and David Garber said, you're not going anywhere else. You're not even going to New York. I said, look,
Wow.
I do think that I want to stay in Atlanta, but Larry Rosenthal was the first one to invite me and was my main, and I was talking to him, and I said, look, David, Dr. Garber, right? I was calling him, of course, Dr. Garber. I want to work here with you guys, but I need to go to New York. I just go there, work 1 week, everything is scheduled, do some cases, and then I come back and I stay here. And he said, nope, you're not going. He called Larry Rosenthal right in front of me. He said, I'm going to call Larry and tell Larry that you're not going. I said, no, please don't do that.
Yeah.
He's going to get mad at me, and I promise. He said, nope. He called, say, Larry, here's David. How are you doing? And they're kind of friends and blah, blah, blah. So look, I have Christian Coachman, the young technician from Brazil, sitting in front of me here. And I just want to let you know, he's not going to New York on Monday. Yeah, he's not going. And Larry's like, why? No, he's just he's gonna stay longer here, and he's moving to Atlanta. And I just want to let you know, talk to you later. Boom. And I'm like, holy shit. Larry didn't care, Larry was all over. He was at the top of his game as well. And he was like, okay, next technician, whatever. We still have fun remembering this story, but that's what David did. And the rest is history, right? So Atlanta became my home, and I was the head ceramist of the Team Atlanta lab for 5 years, and that's when all the doors opened, and that's where learn, grow, and create happened. That's moment number 2 of my life. Yeah.
Okay, I got to ask you. So in 2004, you go to the Chicago Midwinter, and in a couple months, your life makes this turn. How old were you in 2004? You were getting in
2004,
your
I
30s.
was 29.
You were 29. Okay.
I was 29.
So a couple months later, you moved to Atlanta.
The guy invited me in January. I was in Chicago midwinter in February. I went back to do the tests in March. And in March, I was hired. I went back to Brazil in April to get my stuff and to apply for the visa. That's actually very important. I said, look, I will not go illegal. I have to apply for a working visa. And as you know, it's not easy. So they applied for everything, lawyers, money, investments on the process. And it took 6 months. So I was in Brazil until October. Visa comes out, and I fly with everything I have to US, to move to US on the same year, October. And I'm moving, and I'm living in the basement of Maurice Salama for several months.
Okay, let me just say this. That's a pretty big first job in the States, don't you think?
They were by far, for sure, the number 1 most well-known dental practice in the world at that time. No doubt. In 2004, I would say that was the peak of their game. Of course, they are super well-known today, but Goldstein is retired, Garber is retired, Maurice is more on the education side. There's young doctors working there. But in 2004, they were at the peak on publishing, execution, clinical cases, lecturing, all over, deals with companies. Everything was happening with Team Atlanta at that moment. And I just, boom, right in.
Wow. Now you got to learn to communicate.
When I went there the first time, they were still on that process, even though I was nobody. They wanted to create a good impression. They had a feeling I could be their main ceramist, right? And you can imagine for a top dental practice like that, how important it is, that position. They had Pinka Zadar, one of the top ceramists for many years, as their main ceramist, and Pinkas was starting his own business, so they were looking for the next one, right? So it was a big position. They were betting big on me. And I remember when I first landed there, they put me on a super cool hotel to impress me. First evening, I get a call from a secretary of Dr. Goldstein saying, Dr. Goldstein will pick you up for dinner and be downstairs at 6:30. So I go down 6:25. I'm there waiting, and a convertible white Mercedes comes in, and Dr. Goldstein is in it. Now, we have to put things in perspective, right? I'm a young dentist technician from Brazil. In 2004, there was basically almost zero internet. Uh, People were not traveling. There was no Brazilians working in US in dentistry. This was not something like it is today, that people just move, travel, go to congresses. Very few dentists were actually going into congresses in US. To fly from Brazil to you for a congress was like insane. It was for very few. So these big names, John Coyce, Ronald Goldstein, Frank Spear, you name all the guys from the 90s, early 2000s, and they were like so distant from you. You heard about them in Brazil. You knew they existed. Saw an article maybe here and there. You had to go to a library to find an article, to find a paper. There was no downloads. There was no nothing. So me standing there and suddenly Ronald Goldstein comes driving a convertible, amazing Mercedes with the top down and just saying, hey, Chris, jump in, let's go for dinner. I still remember the details of that evening and everything that happened. And Goldstein's just an amazing guy, and his passion for dentistry and how humble he is, even though everything that he did for the profession. So that was my starting point in Atlanta, and then working with Salama, becoming like his brother, and then becoming the pupil of Garber. Garber was the one I was working daily because he was the prosthodontist on the team, and then being able to lecture with them. Right, that was the next phase. The next phase was, okay, you first, when you were very young, you found dental technician work as your shortcut because you could be slightly better and you could survive. Right. Now you are a good technician with the potential to become a very great technician. Now you are kind of allowed to follow a new passion. What is your passion besides doing dental technician work? And I found communication. Said, I love communicating with people. I love teaching. I want to teach. And I was exactly at the right place, right? With the best well-known teachers there, with Team Atlanta and all the connections. So my phase number 3, after surviving and then learning and growing, I was able to then become a communicator. And that was the phase 3. So starting in 2007, in my 3rd year in Atlanta, they said, look, you need to start publishing and you need to start speaking.
Yeah.
And for that, you need to create your story. What is your story?
Yeah.
You're going to teach about.
Great. And you got a high from speaking and teaching. And, one of the things that listeners might not understand is when you do really well, speaking doesn't go like this. It goes like this. It goes, it's a much higher, one person wants to come to the next end. Is that what happened to you? Did you just get invited week after week? Or
2004, I couldn't speak English. 2007, I published my first article. I have my first topic that I can talk about, and they start to give my first opportunity for a small study club of 20 people here and there. From 2007, when I gave my first little lecture in English, to 2009, in 2009, I was already one of the top speakers, dental technician speakers in the world, right? 2009, 2010, I became the main speaker for Ivoclar, for example. I was at the cover of their marketing campaign of their materials, and I was lecturing everywhere. So it literally took 3 years, 2, 3 years, from not speaking at all, not even speaking the language, to speaking everywhere. And there's two reasons for me. There's two learning messages here for me, is that once you find that passion, but also in a pragmatic way, you say, I can be a good speaker and I have a good story. I have something to teach. There is something. So some people want to teach because they just want the exposure. Some people want to teach because they want to travel. Some people want to teach because they are a good clinician. Some people, they want to teach because they want to diversify what they do. These are not exactly the right reasons. You need to say how good of a communicator you want to become, how much energy you're going to put to really become a great communicator. And so preparation. And then what is your story? What is the problem that you want to solve as a speaker? You're going to just be one more talking about the same things. You're just going to show one great case after the other. So for me, I think that the curve was super fast because I had the right reason. I said, I will not leave my home if I don't have something that can help people do better. I need to find what that is. What do I do that I do well, that I can help others do as well? And how can I structure this content in a way that will become my landmark, my trademark? And people, when they think about that solution, they will think about my name. And that happened with the pink hybrid restoration was my first topic, even before DSD. I published several articles. I took ownership of the concept, of the technique. I developed a step-by-step. I gave hands-on courses about it. And I did super cool cases with top doctors on that specific technique. And the lecture was very good. Even though my English was not very good, the lecture was very good and very useful. And it took off.
So after it took off, I would imagine you're on the road, you're speaking. Now you're thinking, how do I turn this into some type of a business? Because that's one thing, that's a pivot every speaker has to make, is when you start educating, you're like, okay, I need a reason to get on a plane, obviously, something that's helpful. And then secondly, how did this all come to be?
Yeah. So at that point, lecturing can become your second thing that you do once in a while to just break the routine and enjoy traveling, meeting people, and then sharing know-how as well. So you're a clinician, you have a very successful practice, and you do some lecturing. That was not my case. I was a very good technician, and my technician business was doing good. I started to lecture, and I could have stayed like this forever, like many, good, well-known technician, doing more and more special cases, charging more and more. Of course, you hit a ceiling that you cannot go through that. And lecturing, right? You could be doing both. But of course, that for me, doing the obvious is never an option. And I have something inside of me just always pushing me forward and say, look, think about, and being creative was always something natural for me, and I thank my parents. I thank the education that I had. I thank the school that I went my whole life that was always so open, progressive, and creative, right? That allowed me to not be afraid of being creative, even being naive. You need to be naive to be creative, idealistic. You need to dream. You need to dream awake. You need to have creative idleness. You need to stop like a kid from time to time and think about nothing, and let your mind wander, and things just go and go and go, and ideas come. They do come. It's a system that you can create, that every time you need a good idea, you can create a good idea, if you put yourself in that position, because there's so much information around that everybody's exposed. It's not exclusive to me, you know. The information is very democratic. Um, so if you put yourself in that position to take advantage of the information, you're going to find solutions that people didn't think before, or you're going to improve solutions that already exist. So of course that for me was obvious. Okay, I'm a technician, I'm a dentist, but I'm also a technician. And everybody says, that's so cool. You know both sides of the story. So for me, it was like, I need to create something that empowers the connection between these two elements: clinical work, technician work, clinical work, technician work. So for me, it was kind of natural to say, let me list, after, you know, at that point, I was in 2008, 9, I already had like 15 years of experience as a technician almost. And I was like, let me list all the problems that I'm facing as a technician or as a clinician, all the bottlenecks on this beautiful relationship that is so difficult: technician, dentist, dentist, technician. And I started to list, you know, everything that we were doing wrong, everything that could be improved, you know. And then I realized there was almost nothing about it. There was no professional systems, no systematic approach, no communication systems. Everybody was just doing things, picking the phone and talking to the technician. Say, this was not good. This was that. So I said, this is it. You know, it's so obvious. If I'm seen as the guy that is both, and I can develop a system to improve this relationship, I have an even better story than my pink hybrid implant restoration. And that can be my second big story. And I'm going to call it digital smile design. Digital because technology is starting, smile because it's the business that we are in, and design because everything needs to be by design. So it is digital smile design. And digital smile design will become this philosophy of improving this collaboration to grow as smile rehabilitators.
Yeah. Did you
So,
ever dream it would be what it is today? What was your first vision for DSD?
you know, my first vision was like, let me build a very good system for me. Let me first build a system and use it before I start bullshitting people around, right? And let me start getting better because I'm using this system. And let me see how people react as I'm using. And it was amazing because I started to put the workflow together, and all the doctors that I was working with was like, Christian, this is so cool. This is amazing. This works. We're doing better because of this. You know, technicians that were working with me said, teach me, show me, how do you do this? You know, facial analysis and the drawings. How do you transform PowerPoint and Keynote into a dental software? And how do you use this to communicate? And then how do you use this to sell the treatment to the patient? And the mock-up, and you translate the digital to the model, and you do the 3D, and then you wax it up, and then you go to the mouth, and then you sell the treatment. So I started to structure this, and I started to use it, and I started to succeed because of it. So my story was strong. I was like, when I started to give the courses, I was like very confident, saying, I'm doing this and this is working. And people saw that confidence. But for me at the beginning, it was just about using it and teaching it, right? Using it and teaching it. And I didn't know how people would accept it. And I was lucky at the time in 2008 that Facebook was becoming huge among dentists. And I said, that's it. That's my opportunity. That's my shortcut. You know, I'm going to start sharing everything I know on Facebook. And I was among the first ones to really use Facebook to give, not to ask, but to give. And it was amazing because, again, 2009, the world was not as connected as today, was starting to become very connected. But in 1 year, I would say from 2009 to 2010, digital smile design and my name became famous all over the world because of Facebook. And everybody was using DSD or wanting to learn DSD or teaching. The amount of people that was grabbing my videos on Facebook, listening to it, and then putting their own courses together. I teach DSD, DSD course in Singapore with Dr. whatsoever, DSD course in Italy with, and went viral. And I thought it was amazing. People said, Christian, they're all using your ideas. I said, no, they're spreading the word. It's going to come back and it's going to help me, and that was moment number 3. As a communicator and spreader, I was able to take an idea and make it a worldwide known idea, even though technology was not even mature enough. The philosophy, the concept, the goal, the intention of DSD was people were enjoying the intention of DSD.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the business. So you had to turn it into a business.
So that's phase 4. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to put 4 and 5 together because I can't. I would love to do 2 hours of interview, and I know you don't have all day, but the business grew, and then you had to delegate to 5. Mm-hmm. So take us through those 2 phases.
So as I said, when I started with DSD, it was just about me improving my work, and then I saw the potential because people wanted to learn. So I started to put courses together. So 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, I literally went across the globe, around the globe, several times per year. Was like 250 days traveling in 1 year. It was like insane, right? The numbers of people, I was teaching for like thousands of people every year, and just sharing the ideas and so on. And that's when I started to realize that I couldn't do this forever. And that probably, there was 2 things. First, I realized that maybe there was a business beyond that, and just teaching was not taking full advantage of it. And second, and most important, I realized that even though people loved the courses and the content, 99% of the people were doing nothing about it after the course. So I saw the potential business-wise and being more effective on changing people's behavior. I said, look, let's get inspired by other speakers outside dentistry, right? People that are influencers or coaches, they teach, but then they have services afterwards, right? So that's when DSD companies started, right? And this is 2013 when I met my first business partner, investor. And that's when we founded the DSD Planning Center. After that, the DSD Lab. After that, the DSD Marketing Agency. After that, the DSD online platform. So everything is structured today in a way, of course, this has been evolving for the last 10 years. But the idea is that we educate, but then we support the ones that want our help to implement all the ideas that we teach. So year after year, we've been improving the way we support doctors to implement our ideas. So it became a journey, a partnership between the dentists and our company to try to make these ideas become reality.
Yeah. Now, as it grows, none of us ever think of the word delegator. Delegator kind of gets pushed into our world because when was the defining point where you said to yourself, I can't do this all on my own? And you went to phase 5.
I have to tell you, I was always pretty good delegating since the beginning. Yeah. Since when I was a young technician, that I was not even a great technician, I was just an okay technician. I was already, everything that I would do good, I would always think why I did this good. What was the process behind? How did I learn this? Why I'm doing this better, slightly better than the other guy on the side there? What went through my mind? What was the process? I was exposed to something, or I structured the information different ways, or I did practice in different ways. So I was always about learning something, structuring in my mind why I became good, teaching others, and delegating. I want you to do what I'm doing so I can do something else. So I always had that in my mind. The other thing is that I love high quality stuff, but I'm not a perfectionist. I'm not a perfectionist. I think, and I tell my team, it's better to to put it out there than to wait things to get perfect. Don't wait. Just be brave. Put it out there. Allow the criticism to come. Let people say, this is not good. I don't care. It's much better. You're exposing yourself, you're learning, you're speeding up the process, and it may be good enough for many, right? And it may be good enough to help people, and then you improve on top of it. So don't wait. So for me, I was always about surrounding myself with people, inspiring. I was much more in the business of inspiring. Uh, and right at the beginning, when I started the business, my first partner, after a few years, left, and he had the money. And 2006, 17, then money is gone. DSD was already a company. And I said, you know what? I'm going to bring people on board. And that's when I started to recruit top people to surround me and giving pieces of my business. Say, look, I love sharing. I love learning. I love interacting. I love people. I love inspiring. And I love delegating. And I need people, right? And people started to come. People started to be inspired. People started to give up on better jobs with more money to come and join for less money and be able to bet on the project and help grow the project. All the way to the point that, and I never had a business background, right? So I knew that from 2017, when my partner left and I was named the CEO of DSD, and until last year, so 2023, so for 6 years, right, playing the role of CEO, I was just basically inspiring people, inspiring the manager, inspiring the operational person, inspiring the marketing person, and just bringing people together. And 1 year ago, I made the best move of my life. That was to find a professional CEO to take over. Yeah. And officially tell everybody, I am not the CEO. So I have time now to once again reinvent myself, create the next step of my life, and move into the next project.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. Now, again, I can't keep you all day, but what's the next chapter of this book look like for you?
So the next chapter has a couple of chapters, right? First, in the DSD project, since I'm not in the daily management, I'm not the CEO, I'm able to go back and start doing more of what I always loved in the project, because the project has so many things. When you have a company that has 120 people, it's not a big company at all. It's a small company, but it's already at size that it's a serious company, right? You have everything. You have HR, you have marketing, you have sales, you have customer support, you have education, you have production, you have the lab, you have the planning center. So by moving away from managing this, that is a full-time job, I'm able to then do a little bit of the things that I'm better, and that is being the spokesman of the company and going back to the lab. I'm back in the lab for the last few months after, I would say, 10 years away from the bench. I'm back in the lab because the lab is growing, is becoming a serious part of our business. And, but of course, a completely different lab than the one I used to have 10, 15 years ago. And there's so many amazing things happening in the lab, and the systems are so cool with all the technology. But you still need artistic eyes, you still need great hands, you still need to design smiles. And I'm working daily with the designers and the ceramicists in the lab, teaching them everything I learned about smile design for the last 30 years.
That's awesome. We're going to continue to highlight this story as it develops. And I think it's only going to get more amazing for you, Christian, as you look at the years ahead. But give us some final thoughts on your story and some of the biggest pieces you learned for the listeners.
Yeah, I hope that these stages of my life can maybe inspire or give some light for people that are struggling in certain moments of their career. I've been analyzing other people's careers and people that were able to succeed and leave a legacy. And And there's always similar stages, when you are completely uncomfortable on survival mode, just make sure that you don't feel like everything is a waste. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and you need to use that suffering to find that thing that you can do slightly better than the average. And when you are suffering and struggling because things are just not going right for you and you feel like everything is wrong, make sure that you translate that anger, because you feel anger. You're like not necessarily pissed with anybody. You're just, why, right? I'm like struggling. Take that anger and flip that into action towards that one little thing that you think you can do slightly better than the others. And it's going to happen. Persistency, resilience, and you just put that anger into that right energy, and suddenly you start to do things and people start to notice. Don't stay there forever. As soon as you get out of that and you start to breathe, don't rest. When you can give your first, I'm doing better, that's when you say, I need to double down, and you need to flip to the next stage, and that is learn, grow, create. Because that's when you have enough energy and you have already your life a little bit under control, that you can focus on that and plan your next decade, meaning the thing that you're going to do for real, right? Survival mode, you do to survive. Now you survived. Now you're going to do your real thing. And to do the real thing, you need to be able to connect with the right people, take advantage. This is not money moment. Growth moment is not money moment. If you focus on money, you're probably not going to grow as much, and you're not going to create the thing for you, right? So second phase is not about money. You need to survive, pay your bills, but it's about learning and growing. So you need to be surrounded by the right people, find the right mentors, working on the right place, giving up on an offer that gives you more money to accept an offer that gives you less, but is on the direction that you know will make the difference, will allow you to make the difference. So that is moment 2, learn, grow, create. Then you are able to develop your persona, your professional persona, meaning professionally, I'm this. And you're able to get into the mode of really making good money and spreading the word about what you do, right? Creating your reputation. That's moment 3. And then as you're creating your reputation, during that phase, keep always on the back of your mind, how are you going to translate this into a business, a better business opportunity, right? Not just making the money that you're doing, but what are the opportunities that will come because you're creating that reputation and you're doing something very well. So you can go into phase 4, and that is the business, leveraging your reputation and your know-how to translate it into a business, right? And that will bring you to phase 5, that is let others take over, reset, rethink, and restart something new all over again. Get uncomfortable, learn, grow, create, communicate, spread the word, create the reputation, build a business around it, delegate, go to the next phase. Maybe some people do this 3 times, 4 times, 5 times in a lifetime. So I like to think that there's no ending, and that keeps me young and alive.
Yeah. Christian, this is amazing. I learned a lot. You and I have been friends for a long time. There's some things I didn't know about your journey. I really appreciate sharing that today. So
thank you for listening. Thank you for listening.